If you feel like you've been doing everything right with food and exercise and you're still gaining weight around your middle, especially, stress is not a conversation we can ignore, right? It's not a footnote in your story. Stress may be the entire story. And today I want to explain to you why that's true, why that could be true for you, especially as a midlife woman. Welcome to your daily hit of grace and grit, your quick dose of inspiration to kickstart your day. I'm Courtney Townley, and here is today's hit. We talk about stress like it's a mood, right? It's a feeling. It's just a feeling. It's feeling overwhelmed, it's feeling anxious or stretched too thin. But stress is not just a feeling. It is a biochemical event. It's a hormonal cascade of consequences. And when stress becomes chronic, it creates a physiological environment in your body that makes fat loss really freaking hard. Maybe not impossible, but harder than necessary. If you are carrying around elevated stress levels, you are living your life in a state of escalating stress all the time, and you are wanting to lose weight, especially fat, stress management is not a conversation that you can ignore. I think this is one of the most important things that I teach in my work. I feel like what the Consistency Code book is all about. And I want you to really understand the mechanism behind it. Because once you do, you're going to stop blaming your food choices and address the actual driver. And please don't hear me saying that food isn't important. Of course, the quality of your nutrition matters. Absolutely. But stress comes into our life in 1,000 different ways, and food is only one of those ways. So I'm going to walk you through what happens when your body is in a chronic state of stress. So you understand, you've probably heard this before, but I don't think we can hear it enough. So when your brain perceives a threat, real or imagined, and that's an important part, okay? When your brain perceives a threat, real or imagined, whether that's a deadline or a challenge you're facing in a difficult relationship or a financial pressure or even just a really packed calendar, or maybe it's even just lack of sleep, right? Any of those things could be stressors, and 1,000 other things could be stressors. But those perceived threats signal to your adrenal glands to release cortisol, your stress hormone. And cortisol, as the primary stress hormone, has the job of helping you to mobilize energy fast, and it is awesome at it. When cortisol gets released, it raises blood sugar, it increases your heart rate, it sharpens your focus, and this is a brilliant design for short-term emergency. The problem is, of course, that many of us are living in a state of low-grade chronic stress. It's not just a temporary emergency. It's not short-term. Our cortisol is elevated not for 20 minutes during a crisis, but for hours or days or months or years at a time. Let's be honest, I tell a lot of women that stress has just become a way of life for them. Stress has become a habit for them. And chronically elevated stress does 3 very specific things that drive fat storage in midlife, not fat loss. So first, let me preempt, before I get into these 3 things, let me say that it's important to remember that at midlife, you are also losing estrogen and progesterone. And what those 2 hormones do is help you to buffer cortisol in your system. So when you have estrogen and progesterone on board earlier in life, and you go through stressful periods, you don't feel it as hard as you do in midlife because you've got estrogen and progesterone to buffer the cortisol. But at midlife, we don't have that advantage anymore. We don't have those hormones helping us to soften the effects of cortisol in our system. And so the three things I'm about to mention are more potent on midlife bodies than they are on bodies who still have the estrogen and progesterone on board. So first and foremost, cortisol, chronically high cortisol, it keeps insulin elevated, right? We talked about this a few episodes ago. We talked about the power of insulin in the body. And so cortisol raises blood sugar, and anytime there is sugar in our blood, the pancreas releases insulin to shuttle that sugar into our cells so it can be used for energy. And when there's too much insulin in our bloodstream because there's too much sugar in our bloodstream, the effects of that is definitely fat storage, particularly visceral fat in the abdomen. And visceral fat is the dangerous kind of fat, right? It's the kind of fat that gets around our organs. It's really deep into our abdomen. Versus subcutaneous fat, which is the kind of surface level fat. Subcutaneous fat isn't nearly as dangerous as visceral fat. Second, when we are living in chronic low-grade cortisol states or high-grade cortisol states, we have cravings for high-calorie, high-reward foods. Why would that be true? Well, number one, our body thinks we need a lot of energy, but also because our nervous system is wildly dysregulated and it needs to be calmed down. Your nervous system is looking for recovery and restoration, which comfort foods can help it to find. I'm not saying it's a reason to eat it. I'm saying it's one of the reasons we do eat comfort foods. That's not a weakness, right? It's your body looking for ways to soothe itself when it's experiencing too much stress for too long. Your body is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Seek fast energy during a perceived threat and/or seek self-soothing when your nervous system has been in a state of chronic stress for too long. And thirdly, and this is one of the things that people rarely talk about, is that chronic cortisol actually breaks down muscle tissue. Now, at midlife, you're already at a disadvantage for maintaining muscle tissue. We lose muscle as we age. But when we have a lot of cortisol pumping through our bloodstream, we lose muscle at a higher capacity because cortisol is catabolic. Cortisol breaks down muscle tissue, which really sucks for the midlife woman, right? Because our muscle tissue is so precious and we work so hard to build it and maintain it. And we want to keep every ounce that we can possibly keep on our body. Because without muscle, of course, our bones become more brittle, we have slower metabolisms, and everything just gets harder. So here's what I want you to take away from today. If fat loss is a goal for you, and please, I fully understand not everybody listening to this show has a goal of fat loss, but a lot of people do. Stress management is not nice to have. It is a biological prerequisite. So as you move through your week this week, I want you to consider maybe building one cortisol reset behavior into your day, right? And this doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be long. Maybe just 10 minutes of something that down-regulates you. So a walk outside, laying on the floor and practicing some deep, slow breathing, watching something that makes you laugh. Oh my goodness, I watched Jumanji with my son the other night. I don't remember the last time I laughed that hard. I don't know why I thought it was so funny. But anyway, I did, and it felt great, and I slept great, and I woke up feeling great. Stillness without a screen, right? That can help you regulate your nervous system. We don't always have to be taking in information, but we've kind of become a world that does that. Anytime we have a moment to pause, it's with phone in hand. Do something today that tells your nervous system that the threat has passed, that you aren't in a threatening moment. that it's okay to be restorative and not worrying or planning or predicting, but just being. Because you cannot out-exercise chronic cortisol. You cannot out-diet it, but you can address it directly. And when you do, your body really, you will feel the effects that your body more easily lets go of so many things, including unneeded fat storage. So I'm not saying that cortisol is the only factor or stress is the only factor in fat loss. Of course it isn't. But if you do not address stress management, if you do not build skill sets for helping you to manage stress better, your journey to fat loss will be so much more difficult than is necessary. So what can you do today to just unpack a little bit of stress? It's a great question to be asking yourself. You'll be doing your cells and your soul a whole lot of favor. If this stirred something inside of you, imagine what a whole book of clarity and courage could ignite. The Consistency Code, a midlife woman's guide to deep health and happiness, goes even deeper into the mindset and practices that create real, meaningful change at midlife. Grab your copy today over at theconsistencycode.com and keep the momentum alive.